Crossroads fights can be very, very compelling in boxing. And when it takes place this weekend, Saturday, April 6th, it'll be actually Sunday, April 6th, Saturday, April 5th, from Australia, when Tim Tszyu'S and Joey Spencer take the ring to face one another. Now, I previously did a breakdown video on these two men, but I'm coming back with a final word on this fight because the compelling story that I speak of is one man may be going in an opposite direction, but we don't know until the fight takes place who that will be. Someone is going to have to make the determination that the direction that I'm headed is I want to move upward and onward. And that only the fight can define. When you talk about these two men, they're coming in with records where they have suffered losses and they have shown promise. But like I said, headed in two different directions. Now, when we talk about Spencer, he's 25 years of age and he only has one loss on his record, fighting out of Grand Blanc, Michigan. This young man knows now that things can open up for him. And so he's readily taking this shot against Tszyu'S. Now, as far as Tszyu'S is concerned, there lies the question. He's 30 years of age now, and his reign of holding a title was very short. Fighting out of South Wales, Australia, Tim has back-to-back losses that he has to come back from. And though some may look at the fight with Spencer as a step back for him, so he can kind of regalvanize, regather, kind of get himself back on track. A fighter the likes of Spencer is not necessarily someone to do that against, especially if he's ambitious. The one thing of note here is to pay attention to where the fight is going to be held. Newcastle Entertainment Centre, Newcastle, Australia. Now that's interesting. Tim looking for the friendly confines once again to assist. But I dug up something and it was an article, Boxing Scene, where Tim's promoter at No Limit Boxing, George Rose, has admitted that the junior middleweight contender is in a do-or-die situation. As the article goes on to state that Tszyu'S, who's 29, well, we'll say 30, let's round it off, okay? Endured a rough 2024 with losses to Bakram Murtazaliev and Sebastian Fondora, having started the campaign undefeated, and the pressure is on to bounce back against Spencer. This is the biggest fight of Tim's career, no question, said Rose, the promoter. April 6th is do or die. Joey Spencer is young, dangerous, and coming to make a name for himself. But for Tim, this is about proving he still belongs at the very top. A statement win here rockets him straight back into the mix with the best in the world. I don't necessarily agree with that because, remember, there were back-to-back losses to two top fighters. Spencer is not thought of as a top fighter, but he's a young fighter that's vying for a position in contention. The article goes on, let's be real, 154 pounds is the best division in boxing right now. The names at the top are massive, and Tim's name deserves to be right there with him. A big win against Spencer, and we're talking Jermell Charlo, Keith Thurman, Sebastian Fundora, Errol Spence, Virgil Ortiz, all blockbuster fights that can happen next. I again disagree with that because Tim could show physical effects if Spencer is strong enough to get at him. And that's the thing that we have to really pay attention to, because Spencer has had his setback and has come back from his setback. We don't know that Tszyu will be completely back, because I remember Spencer losing the fight to Jesus Ramos Jr. back in 2023, a 7th round TKO, and a fight where he was down in the first round. At that time, I thought that that was a fight that was too soon for Spencer. But he learned from it, and he's come back with 3 wins in a row. And that's enough fight under his feet to get him to be right psychologically here. Something that Tszyu, if you're going to fight in your hometown, maybe a softer touch, sort of like what George Kambosos Jr. did when he took on a man that was from the home country, a man that was quite a lot like himself, and it still turned out to be a spirited fight. But it was something where George could feel a little bit more confident and comfortable. If Spencer is able to come out and offer any type of resistance in this game, it could prove to be poor for Tszyu. And Tszyu's record presently is 24-2 with 17 KOs. Spencer's record being 19-1 with 11 KOs and ready to take that next step. It all is contingent upon the psychological place and position of either man in this fight. And when we look at what the promoter has said, talking about it being do or die, that's exactly correct. As it goes on, Charlo's been the long-standing king at 154, never lost in the division, and now he's back. But he's back when? Charlo hasn't fought since he faced Canelo Alvarez. And that's a lot of ring rust. And the division has learned a lot while he's been off the scene and has grown exponentially. That's a fight that's long overdue for Tim. Keith Thurman just made a massive statement against Brock Jarvis, a fighter that maybe Tim Tszyu should have considered, like what I was saying about Kambosos. He's another name that makes a ton of sense. And then there's Fundora. No questioning him as the champion after his performance recently, but let's be clear, Tim deserves a rematch after everything that unfolded in his fight. Why didn't he go for it instead of going into Murtazaliev? You see, that's the thing. Pride before the fall. Everyone knows what would have gone down without the cut. No, we don't. That's why you should run that one back. Fundora defeated Tszyu in Las Vegas in 2024, and when Tim was badly inhibited by a gruesome cut when his elbow collided with his scalp early on. The blood-soaked and impaired Tim made it all the way through their fight, but lost via narrow decision. They could have stopped the fight with the assessment that the cut was too bad, and Tim would not have had to go through the embarrassment, agony, and suffering of the loss of blood, as well as a loss on his record. Whomever made the decisions, to go forward with that fight when it could have still been stopped and declared a no contest should be fired. Simple. Because boxing is that type of a sport, and it's important for people to be able to manage their charges, in this case Tim, in the best interest possible. Because not only are big time purses at stake, his health and well-being is at stake. And we're not just talking about his physical health bearing the scar. We're talking about psychological. And I don't think enough attention was paid to that. So, going forward in this fight, it's imperative that Tim really enter and pay respect to what he's facing, the demons of the unknown and the ambition of a fighter who is going to be looking for the best of an opportunity. Now, Spencer, he said, this fight is very important for my career. A lot of people are going to be tuning in and watching this fight to see if Tim can bounce back. I believe that I'm going to be an underdog in this fight, and people are going to take this as a comeback fight, that he's going to come in and be able to get his career back on track. But when I come in and do what I need to do to get this win, I'm definitely going to be on the map in a way that I haven't been up to this point. And that's a viable assessment of things coming from Spencer. That's the proper way to look at it. He says, I'm excited to get big fights after this. I feel like it's going to open the door for me to fight bigger fights and the ultimate goal, which is winning the title. I want this one a little bit more than I think I've ever wanted a fight before. I really want to win this one. I believe I can beat him because I believe I'm a superior boxer, Spencer said. In all facets, I believe that I'm the better fighter. And as far as his weaknesses go, I feel like he's got a warrior spirit. It can turn into a weakness, and it can also be a strength. It just depends on how it's being used. I believe I'm going to come in with the better game plan, and I believe that he's not going to be able to deal with what we prepare in this training camp. So if I touch his chin right, do I believe I can put him away? Absolutely. I'm coming to take him out. Whether it's a decision, stoppage, or a knockout is always fun, but I don't necessarily think that just because he was knocked out in his last fight, I'll have an easier time knocking him out. I'm taking this fight and going into it the same way that I go into every other fight, which is letting the game plan play out and fighting my fight. And if the knockout comes, it comes. Great assessment for Spencer, and an alarm for Tim Tszyu'S. Question is, will he be awake on April 6th? This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know your final thoughts about this fight, and who do you have, and how do you think it's going to play out? Leave comments and let's discuss. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.